What is up, a comely family? I am here with the one and only Wet Wizard, a true OG. I mean, this guy's got a Donnie in his collection. He's got over 200 ultra rare Thors. He's a massive collector. He's part of one of the top collecting groups on all of VeVe. He's coincidentally been watching me since, almost day one. I think he saw one of my earlier videos, and we've always kind of connected over Twitter and everything. And, recently I was like, man, like we got to show off your collection. We got to show off your wisdom, get your expertise on all these topics and hopefully shed some, positivity to the community. So dude, thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate that introduction, dude. 100%. It's nice to connect with you. Like I was mentioning off camera, man, I've been watching your videos a long time and I'm excited to connect with you, man. I haven't been able to meet you in person, but this is great, man. I'm excited.
Oh, that's sweet, man. And I know you've been hitting all the big decon events. I know you saw Sean from Comics and Crypto recently and a few other cats.
Yeah, man. I've been going to all those events like the decon kickoff party. I was at Comic-Con. Unfortunately, I was able to go one day. I mean, I just love connecting with the community in that way. I was always quiet. I never even had a Twitter until decon. Like everybody's like, you have to get on Twitter. You have to get on Twitter. So I was like, all right, cool, I'll do it. And like it's just great. Something really special is being built with VeVe, and I'm just glad, I can be a part of it.
That's so sick, man. And were you one of the lucky ones that got that VeVe sign from David Yu?
I did, man. Yeah, I got one from David Yu and Dan, man. So
Wow.
I have the cards signed by both of them, one signed by Dan, one signed by David, and it was tight. Yeah, I actually saw them outside of the VeVe booth at Comic-Con. Me and Sean were walking around checking out like these Grail comics and stuff, and they were at the booth right next to him. So I went and said, "What's up?" I met him at the kickoff party,
Wow.
and it's cool. I got to just talk to them for a little bit, and like David is just as everybody describes, man. He just loves collectibles, bro. He was just so excited to be there. He was just so happy. And then like kind of like 5-10 minutes after our combo, there was going to be like the guy, I think it was the guy that started Deadpool, was going to be signing at the Marvel booth. And he's like, "Oh, you got to come with us. This artist is going to be there." And he was just so excited, man. Like this is just a true passion for him.
Wow.
It's just awesome.
It's so nice to hear that because he seems so humble from a distance. So it's nice that you're also telling me like in person, it's no show, it's no gig. Like this is the real guy, right?
100%, man. Yeah. The whole team is like really cool, really approachable. I think I've now had the opportunity between the events. I believe I've met all of them. I haven't met Michael Adler yet, who I didn't even really know about until just recently. But Reese, Alex, David, Dan, all those guys are like awesome, cool guys.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you deserve it, man, because like I said, you've been around since the early days. And I'm just curious, was I one of the first videos that you saw with like the little screen of my brother and I and an old like I think it was like I was using my phone at the time recording the VeVe NFTs. Like was that one of the first videos that you saw?
It definitely was one of the first. Yeah. It was you, Cavill, I forgot who else. I think maybe Randy was around that time too. Maybe, but yeah, you were definitely one of the first. And your videos were like really well done. You would put the collectible right there on the side and be spinning it. You had like kind of little PowerPoints and stuff. Like, yeah, you were doing it official from Jump Street, man. And you always had good information because you have a collector background yourself, right?
I do. Yeah. I've been collecting like my whole life and stuff. And you know what it reminded me of, bro, is like tech reviews. I was like, nobody's doing tech reviews, like kind of thing. So I was like, that's how I kind of envisioned that channel to be. But bro, once they started dropping more and more stuff, I was like, there's no way I can keep up with like 2 drops a day. So I was like, let me get into the interview space, because it's more manageable, right?
Yeah. Like, your videos were legit, man. And you'd have really big, really great conversations. I remember early on you did I think it was Pride versus Lucky, and all those conversations, they're still relevant, but as of right now, like I feel VeVe has kind of paved or at least the market has paved what's valuable right now.
Right.
Which is stacking grails.
Right.
And the sets, not so much. But I feel like that's going to change soon. I feel like that as a business model, the market's kind of catching on, like we just saw with Buzz. Buzz is a big time character, but he didn't sell out because he's not considered like a grail, So I think that shift is going to come, and I think it's imperative for VeVe to do it because every collectible needs to have value, not just the grails,
Right. Man, that's a good point, man. And if you don't mind me asking, like I know you got quite a huge collection. Like what are you stacking right now? What's kind of like some of your heavy hitters?
So actively, I'm not stacking any because I blew through all my liquidity.
Yeah.
But my most recent stacks. So there was the Thor. I stacked the secret rare, ultra rares.
Yeah.
But then my next kind of biggest stack was the Beta Ray Bill, and I stacked some Odins too. But I went really hard on the Beta Ray Bill.
Nice.
Yeah.
Man, I love that. That's kind of more like under the radar. See, this is what you're talking about. Like, and Reese always says that too, right? Like he's like, even though like there's all this grail talk now, eventually
Hmm.
there hopefully will be so much saturation in each one of these sections that there'll like be new communities that form, like the Star Wars community, the Spider-Man community. So though like all these people, the comic book community, even though we're starting to see it, it's just like there's so much being dropped that I just don't feel like the demand, is there yet. But then what's interesting, and this is what I wanted to kind of talk about, was, you come from a pretty heavy crypto background. And you told me earlier before we started this podcast that you kind of saw that opportunity when things were kind of dying off, and here we are again, and things are kind of like going down a little bit, and it's like, what a good time, obviously not financial advice, but if you believe in this stuff, to take advantage like you did back in the day, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, the second coming of crypto is coming. This is just another down cycle. Um, but it's not even just crypto specifically. Like at the first time in 2018, like that was specifically crypto for the most part. And that was just because the industry wasn't there, the foundations weren't there. Now it's even more so built, but this is like a global thing, or a United States thing for the very least. But it's like this is everything that's coming down. So it's not specifically crypto, and like there's so much opportunity right now. And like I said, I wish I would have bought at these prices. Like if I had the liquidity, like I'd be for sure buying up right now. Maybe dollar cost average, maybe do like 25%, 50%, and then wait to see what happens. Because it could go down a bit more. There's a potential like housing crash here in the U.S. People are thinking of potential housing crash. I do come from a mortgage background, so I can definitely see that happening. But
Right.
even then, like this is amazing times to buy right now. Like
Yeah.
I've rode the Omi train from the basically when it was about to get listed on Uniswap, like at 1 cent, all the way down, bro. So I've been with Omi through hell or high water, man, and I still believe in it.
Yeah.
I'm still be throwing money into it for sure.
Good for you, man. And I'll never forget what happened with Omi too, way back, when it was like that burn or whatever they did, and it was like it pretty much 6x'd on the course of what, 2 or 3 days. I don't know if you had your money in by then. I think it was like mid March or something, 2021. And
Mhm.
like so I'm just waiting for that next opportunity where who knows what happens. Like like if they wanted to get rid of like some of the token or whatever, and do a massive burn, I'm kind of like just hopeful that even with like OUP and the MCP, that like maybe there'll be other incentives. Like I know they haven't discussed it yet, but even like the ability to like potentially burn one of your NFTs for OMI, that would be pretty nuts, right?
Wow, yeah, that would be nuts. I always wondered about like the potential of like burning because I
Yeah.
really don't see the value proposition outside of like clout for the most part.
Right.
For burning collectibles, like it just doesn't make sense to me. But if you could burn it for Omi, like that would be nuts. Like that would be very interesting dynamic right there.
Right, because it'd be an easy exit too without having to like actually go and sell. But I wonder how that would work like from a financial perspective on their end too. But it's, yeah, I hear you. Like it's a really interesting thing because if you think about burning, the only people that would be burning something are like cheap stuff, like things that you wouldn't really care about, like a cheap comic or whatever to get MCP points. So
Mhm.
it's gonna have to be like a massive incentive to ever burn like a grail or like a partners, like if
For sure, man.
yeah,
I
yeah.
agree. Like like they're saying that like a lot of conversation around that is like, oh, whales are gonna burn like all these collectibles and stuff. But I was like, I don't. Maybe I'm just not getting it, but I don't see the value proposition in doing that because basically right now they mentioned that if you burn a collectible, you get MCP points.
Hmm.
Well, whales have they're gonna have a shitload of MCP points. So like, what is more MCP points gonna do? Like,
Right.
okay, cool. I'm gonna throw another 1,000 MCP points to the 200,000 I have. It just doesn't make sense to me outside of the cloud aspect.
Right, right. And do you think
Yeah.
with like MCP coming into effect, that we're going to probably see like a rebound in some of like the collectibles that are like exceptionally cheap right now, that are like, you know, a few dollars a piece, because they're going to be like, oh, let me stack all these crappy things, you know, quote unquote, to get more MCP points. And then, you know, anyone that's kind of chasing the things that are cheap right now may actually do better? Or do you think that's a bit of a stretch?
Yeah, I think MCP is going to rise the floors on all the other collectibles, you know, the
Right.
not grails. And, you know, I think the floors are going to start rising on that. And it's going to be really interesting on what they do. Like I'm hoping MCP is like a really next level thought out program, which I'm sure it is,
Yeah.
because, you know, what they've released, like what, 1 or 2 articles, got everybody's feedback, went back to the lab, started to tinker with it, and I think it's going to be something that's going to be legit. Same with OUP. So I think it's going to really get that incentive to like, hey, don't just stack rails, you know, get other things, because I think for VeVe's longevity, they have to do that, you know.
Right.
If people only care about grails, then like we just saw with Buzz, you know, they're not going to sell. So like they have to incentivize people to buy those other collectibles, and I think MCP is a big way they're going to do that.
Man, I love what you said earlier too about like Buzz Lightyear, because, you know, here we are, like you know, one of the most iconic, you know, characters from Pixar, right? And like everybody knows who
Mhm.
Buzz Lightyear is. Like the movie just came out, you get an ultra rare variant for, you know, $100. And it's funny to me because it's like, I think I said this on another podcast, but I was like, man, we're so spoiled. You know, could you imagine if they like release like, I don't know, like FA Black Panther in a comic book version, and people just were like, I'll overlook it for $150. Like, it's not really worth my time. I'm just going to go after like Amazing Fantasy 15. Like, I think that's the difficult part, is like, it's hard to see it because like there's just not that many users right now and everything. But it's like, man, like you make some great points. Like these other things are, it's not like they're not significant. Like we even talked earlier about like Boba Fett being like
Uh-huh.
$200 for the UR. And I'm like, that's one of the most, you know, iconic Star Wars characters. Like, it's just like, I don't know. It's like, I understand there's things happening in the world and there's, you know, looming recession and whatever, but I'm like, man, these are also, you know, not financial advice, but they seem to be great deals, right?
100%, man. And I think that's kind of the culture that it's been built through VeVe. Whether it's, I don't think it's intentional.
Yeah.
They just really needed to work to develop their app so it would run. I mean, you were around the days when you get an app and it crash, you'd have to be logged into the app 30 minutes before, you know, in hopes that you can get a buy now button. So, you know, they've had to rearrange their priorities, but as of right now, I think that's the culture that's been built. It's like I came up stacking grail or stacking sets because I always believed like stacking sets was going to be a big thing.
Right.
And then there were the other people that stacked grails, and the people that stacked grails, as of right now, like that was the way smarter move. But so that's kind of why we're seeing that sentiment in the market. People are coming wise to the fact that stacking grails is the most efficient,
Mm,
because as of right now, there's no reward for stacking sets, you know. Now there's a few airdrops here and there, but like, you know, for the most part, if you have a bunch of sets, who cares right now? Like it's there's no point. But so the market has become smart to that, like, okay, well, I'm only going to go to grail, so that's where all the money's going. And
right.
now these drops that are, you know, pretty big characters, they're like in a wasteland. They're just not being bought. You know, they're the Buzz used to be in Toy Story. I think he was like the big coveted toy, and then he forgot playing with all his other toys.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of what's happening again to Buzz in VeVe life. For the, you know, like he's a big piece, but now people are just like, oh, whatever, you know, I'm gonna stack rails and stuff, which is smart right
Right.
now. But I think from a business, and VeVe understands this, they're geniuses, you know, they have to shift the paradigm to where sets are important. You know, every piece is important. There has to be value to everything in order from a business perspective to sell products, you know?
Right. Man, that's so well said. And you
Yeah.
know, that was kind of my philosophy going into it, is like with Pokemon collecting was just like, you know, it was only the, you know, quote unquote the grails that won, but they also
Uh,
didn't have a system in place where, you know, you'd be incentivized to hold all these other cards, right? Like unless you're playing the game, but even then a lot of these cards were pretty much, you know, useless. And
Mm-hmm.
so like now, like you said, like VeVe has this opportunity to come in, reward you for holding sets, reward you for holding, you know, more and more collectibles, reward you for having low mints, you know, different variations of collectibles, different companies, different brands. Like there's so much ways where, you know, they can make like a very versatile, you know, with a big variety of collectibles, like a really good for MCP, which then gets you future drops. Like there's so many things that they can craft in the background that you couldn't really do with physical collecting. But you know, it's so funny because even though I knew that going in, I still panicked. I still sold. I still was like, well, what if, you know, what if it is sets? Like, and it's just this back and forth. And the other problem too is like, as much as, you know, they have got out with the MTL, there was never a lot of clarity as to when things would come. It was always just like, hey, MCP's on the way. And then so like people, you know, I remember like there was an article that released about MCP, remember, with like the first time it came out with like the half points, you know, 2 points.
Oh yeah.
Everybody just started dumping their whole collections and like going after those points. And that was like 6 months ago. And we haven't even got it released yet, you know? So it's just fun. It's funny, man. Like, I think you're totally right. Like this is like once, I've never seen this in history with collecting where, you know, you could really be incentivized to do something that the company wants. So if they play it right, they could make, you know, so much money on everything.
Yeah, 100%, man. Like they're in such a unique position. And like I think the renting of collectibles is something that's going to be really big into, depending on how they do it, it's
Yeah.
going to be really big into bringing value to all collectibles, like across the board, because now that's going to shape, and also an MCP in a lesser way, but in the renting aspect, like if it's, I feel like VeVe needs, like it's not, in my mind, it's not an option to whether or not these collectibles will become like usable avatars or if there's going to be gamification of VeVe. I don't see it as an option for them. I see it as like an absolute necessity in
Mm.
order to remain relevant, and with the oncoming wave of competition and new technology that's coming. So I think within that, the renting is going to be something that's going to be potentially valuable, because these are no longer going to be like a physical comic book. Like if you hold a physical comic book, like a good grail comic book, yeah, it's great. You're going to own it, and then it's going to potentially over time, you know, accrue in value. But could you imagine if I could take that physical comic book and I could rent it out to people, like to my neighbor? I'll be like, hey, you could have it, and you know, it's to ensure that everything's going to be safe. Hey, you could play with this, or you could have it, look at it for the day, give me $10 a day, or give me $10 for the day, and then I get it back, and then I go to the next neighbor and just do that. Like they're going to be able to do that within the digital world, within renting, and these are no longer going to be just collectibles. They're going to be income generating assets
Right. Right.
with zero liability. Because the thing with, if you are in real estate and you like rent out your house and everything like that, you have to worry about, you know, you have to worry about the taxes, you have to worry, are they going to pay, you have to worry about the maintenance. There's a lot of factors that you have to worry about. And then if they move out, I got to get a new tenant. You know, there's a lot of things like that. But within renting collectibles, you don't have any of those worries. It's just an income generating asset. Like
Wow.
they could really find, in a financial aspect, like globally, it could really get a lot of attention and money into these collectibles if they do it right. And I think the like NFTs as avatars and gamification, like I think it's a need. Like I don't think it's an option for them. I think like they have to do it.
Wow.
But you know,
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. I want to like cut that and clip it and put it on Instagram because I feel like you just like nailed it. Because you know, and it wouldn't be also that much of a, you know, that much capital to really kind of get started on having some of these, you know, NFTs that could be income generating, right? Like you said, like if you have like
mm-hmm,
a Marvel 1 SR, first Marvel comic in, you know, NFT history. I mean,
mm-hmm,
how is that not going to do well if you only have 600 editions of it? And like you said, you know, somebody has a business meeting where they need to impress somebody coming in and they like, you know, have it as a hologram in their office for the day. And like, that's, you know, there's your $25. And all of a sudden you have 20 assets like that. You're making $400 a day. That's more than the average person at their job. So it's like, you know, like you're totally right, man. And I think what's kind of scaring me to me though, is just like the, you know, you talk about it being like a necessity, and I would agree with you. But I remember doing an interview with Trevor, and also I did a few interviews to like for NFT director positions at different gaming companies. And the
mm-hmm.
thing that they talk about with licensed NFTs is the interoperability, and how essentially like there's just so much red tape and like the different coding and different things that need to be done in these different metaverses to have that, I guess, happen. And I'm kind of at the point where, because these assets are already so valuable, given what they mean on the blockchain, given that they're first NFTs, et cetera, then like, I don't know if there's going to be like a third party developer or something, but like for them to get to that level, we could be talking like 5-10 years down the line. But I agree that I think it's like the the next step that's almost like imperative for them to really see those huge heights that they want to see.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of 100% spot on, and that's something that I was kind of curious about as well.
Yeah.
But internally, just within my own thoughts, for me, I think right now, like just because the space is so new, these big companies that, and they haven't seen the value of interoperability. And I'm sure the Disney and these big companies that are like really spot on, I'm sure they have an idea. They have their accelerator program and stuff like that. They have an idea of what it's going to be. But I think these big brands are going to be demanding to be interoperable once the metaverse wave comes in. And the reason why I say that is because it's free advertising.
Right.
These NFTs that they're dropping on VeVe, if they don't make it interoperable, okay, cool, it's going to be in VeVe Verse, but Apple's going to have a metaverse, like Meta, Facebook's going to have a metaverse, Google, Microsoft, the
Right.
big gaming companies, all of these with big followings, there's going to be a lot of people in these metaverses. And if, let's say, Disney, for example, keeps all of their NFTs in VeVe, well, they're just shooting themselves in the foot, because if they have really high quality NFTs, which they do, and they allowed them to be interoperable, there's now an Elsa running around in Meta's, virtual land. There's now a Walt running around in Apple's Meta land, and there's going to be millions of users there. That's basically, those NFTs are going to be walking billboards for Disney, because people will see the NFT and they'll be like, oh, what? That's sick. I didn't, that Elsa, that's cool. Now they're going to be thinking about Elsa, which they're going to be thinking about Disney, and it's just free
Wow.
advertising all over the virtual world, and if they don't make them interoperable, like they're really shooting themselves in the foot. So I think they're gonna come to that realization, and they're just gonna be demanding to be interoperable. Yeah, hell yeah, put our NFTs anywhere and everywhere so everybody can see them, because that's just more attention on us as a brand.
Wow, man, I love it, man. And like, and like you said earlier, like all the royalties that they get with that. And then, who doesn't want to be, a partner or Mickey Mouse or Spider-Man in the metaverse and be one of few and have that kind of historical significance. And, one thing that I think was going to happen too, and I said this earlier as well, is that I think they're going to come up with like some kind of universal tagging slash like detail system where like every NFT will be like officiated by like some company that would say like what it means on the blockchain. Like if it's actually like licensed, as an example, if it actually is the FA on the blockchain or FA within a certain platform. So you imagine like walking in the metaverse and somebody like clicks on your profile, like whatever, let's just say you're wearing a skin, and they see that what you're wearing is like actually, the first Spider-Man that was actually on VeVe First. Like I feel like that's where technology could go. Maybe it's 15 years down the line, but like that's the kind of mindset that I have. And I think it's just like, like one thing that when you and I were both in it so early, but we both saw the vision before it kind of popped. And it was the same thinking I think we both had then when these things were like, $75, and when Donnie was still under 20K. And so it's like, like we've already seen when people get behind it and what these things can do. So it's like, imagine the whole world behind, imagine localization, all these metaverses coming to fruition, people working in the metaverse. Like it just seems almost like it's a matter of time.
100%, man. Yeah, like it's going to be a wave of globally, like that are going to come into space. They just haven't, it's being built right now, and it's still like here and now, but it's nowhere near where it's going to be. And I think once, all these companies are building it, there's a lot of gaming companies that are getting involved, throwing big money into it. Obviously Meta, Facebook changed their whole brand to do that, and they're throwing billions of dollars into it, and I think Shanghai, I forgot what Comics and Crypto Sean said.
Yeah.
He posted an article, but I think they're investing like billions of dollars into it. So
Yeah.
this is definitely the next wave. And the reason why I say that VeVe needs to have, like, it's a need in my eyes, and I'm sure they know this, that these NFTs need to be movable, they need to be interactable, avatars, you know, also like gamified, is because these big players are coming, you know, the Apples, the Microsofts, the Googles, you know, the gaming companies, they're coming and they're going to come like full force. And best believe every single one of their NFTs you're going to be able to interact with, play with. You're going to jump and the hands are going to go move up. You know, you may be able to do other things with them. Like all of their NFTs are going to come like that. They're not going to have restrictions. And if VeVe comes to that next stage of technology and their NFTs are just like statues that you can just place in your virtual house, like VeVe's going to be the land of the statues, you know, like they're going to get
Right.
out innovated completely. And I know they understand that and they know that. They know what's coming because they're geniuses at VeVe. So like that's why I'm saying like they can't, like it's a necessity for these things to be avatars and movable and gamified and stuff like that, because that's what all the competition's going to be doing. So
Mm-hmm.
if they don't do that, they're going to get outclassed and they're going to get out engineered. And for me, in my mind, IP, and this is maybe like kind of a big statement, but in my eyes, like IP only matters when you're at the cutting edge of technology or you're right there around it. And you know, if these things are just like statues, and you know, id Software, Bestidia, these like gaming companies, Microsoft, they're producing these cool ass characters that are moving around, shooting guns, they have lasers for eyes and all this stuff,
Right.
and you could interact with them. Nobody's gonna buy the IP of VeVe if they're just statues, you know, and we could just point to Quid. Quid had
Right.
all the IP in the world, but they're not at the cutting edge of technology. They don't have a metaverse play. They're not in the NFT world. So everybody's just like, oh, whatever. And Quid's like forgotten about. And if VeVe, in my mind, this is my opinion, if VeVe doesn't like make all these NFTs like super legit, playable, usable, then all these other companies will. And you know, VeVe would be in a position to be like Quid, you know, they'll just be forgotten about regardless of the IP. But I don't think VeVe's like that. Everything that I'm mentioning, I believe VeVe is going to do in there. And they're mentioning this. They're mentioning the utility and like it
Yep.
has to be fun and active experience.
No, but I like how
That's
you're
my
keeping it
opinion.
real, man. I mean, I appreciate that. And you know, I think that's the big thing for me that I always think about too is like just like the little things like, hey, you know, imagine if they animated like the secret rare covers as an example, like of like some of the OG ones, like, you know, and like just like these all these little improvements over time. But the other thing too that I forget about is like, you know, Disney and Marvel and all these big companies, they gave their most sensitive IP to VeVe. And it's almost like you gave your firstborn child to VeVe, and then you know like, and it makes me wonder like, would these licensors like just you know abandon their children if there's like a new opportunity that came up? But then I feel like because not only the VeVe community but the NFT community is so strong, and you have a lot of these blockchain purists, you have a lot of collectors. I feel like a lot of the people would like almost make a stand for VeVe to be like, hey, listen, like even though all this advanced technology is happening over here, like you guys need to carry, you know, these things that came out first. Like I don't know, like I don't know if they're good, like you said, like they could be, you know, left in the background, and maybe it's just for collectors. And you know, it is like this thing, there's still so many hoops we have to jump through before I think you, like you said, we see these like, you know, rentable assets that we're making like hundreds and hundreds of dollars off a day, or thousands and thousands in your case, you know. So yeah, I think there's still some hoops, right?
Yeah, man. And I think, like I said, I think VeVe is going to do this, and I think they're very well aware of what's coming, the competition that's coming, and they're ahead of the game. You know, like they were ahead of the NFTs and everything like that.
Yeah.
Like Reese mentioned in a post, you know, they're at the forefront of the metaverse, and I truly believe that. And it's just in my mind, I just like the idea of, oh, you know, that'd be cool if these were like gamified and things like that. Like, I just feel like from a business perspective, you know, it's like a necessity because that's what all the other competition's going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just my own thought, but I believe that's where they're going. Like, that's 100% what they're going to be doing, and which is great news for us because I don't foresee VeVe taking a getting left behind. You know, like I see them as being innovators and doing that. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I believe things will go, and that's just going to be great for us. And I think also another reason why it is a necessity is because that will now make scarcity very real in the
Mm.
metaverse. Because let's say you're in the VeVe Verse land, and we'll use the Jermaine Rogers camo bunny. There's 888 of them. If you could use that as a avatar in the VeVe Verse land, it's going to be pretty rare if you see one of those, because there's only 800 of them,
Wow.
and they look cool. So you're going to be seeing that and be like, oh wow, shit, that's pretty cool. And
Mm.
that makes scarcity real, and that brings huge value to that collectible. Whereas if they're not movable avatars and they're just like statues in people's houses, like, I feel like that experience would get very stale very quickly.
Mm.
Like, let's say somebody has like any type of, like my Donnie, for example. Like, I have a Donnie, and I'm like talking to people on there, and I'm like, hey, come to my house, come check out my Donnie. And they're like, oh, well, I've already seen one of those before. I'm like, yeah, but it looks cool because it's like fighting the Superman statue. And they'll be like, all right, man, let me go check it out, whatever. Like,
Right.
once you see it once, it's like nothing. But if you could actually interact with it, that's when it'd be like, oh, okay, wow, that's huge.
Bro, that's so cool, man. Like that was actually the first time I've ever heard that point. So well done on your end. And I've talked to a lot of people. So, and I mean, if I like, for instance, if I see you running around in your Donnie in the metaverse and be like, you rich bastard, like I'm gonna want to hang out with you. I'm gonna try to chase you down. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? And it'll be cool to just know who you are. Cause I'm like, okay, obviously this guy's OG, you know what I mean? And like we're
Yeah,
developing enough of a community now where I totally get your point. And we kind of talked about this earlier, but I'm a huge fan of the OG NFTs. I just got so much nostalgia. There's so much history there for me. And one
yeah,
thing that I wanted to bring up with you is that again, is the concept of scarcity. Is like right now, yeah, we see the grails, we see the popularity, but like, bro, 150 Donnies, 188 golden Mooglies, 199 silver Mooglies, uh, like only 500 HQ19s, like, and a lot of these things have been stacked and are pretty much like not even available on the market. Even him 300 of those. Like, I feel like, season one, OG NFTs, like any of the big boys in the metaverse, in my opinion, are going to hold at least one of those things. And so, like, could we see a potential like comeback to some of these NFTs, or do you think, hey, man, no, they're like, there's too much big popular IP now for them to even be a competition?
yeah. I mean, that's a great analysis, and 100% I agree with you. I think season one is going to be huge. Like, I think season one is going to be very big, and those really scarce collectibles of season one, the Donnie, the Mooglies, the silver, the platinum one, the Harley Quinn. And let's remember too, like, you got to take 40 units off of those. So the gold Moogly, which is a 180 or whatever, it's really 140. Donnie's really 110. Harley Quinn is really 460, because those are never going to see the light. So it even adds another layer of scarcity. But yeah, I mean, those are statement pieces in my eyes. And like, if you see somebody with one of those, like, it says something in your mind. Like, Donnie's obviously one of the high ones. The 007 movie ticket and that 7-man Aston Martin, those are like a whole nother world. But if you see those, it's like, it says something to the person that has, like, okay, damn, this person's an OG, or this person's a baller, or this person's been in the game a long time. And I think those statement pieces are, Todd's another one, partners,
Yeah.
those really are going to be big things. And I think all of season one will be a statement piece.
Wow.
Whether you have the Jake's dog or anything, those are all going to be a statement about, oh shit, that's season one. Like,
Yeah.
because we're what are we now, almost season 5
Yeah. Yeah.
or something
Exactly.
like that. Yeah, like, once the VeVe Verse comes in, and it's where it's a real thing, and people are moving around as their NFTs and stuff, like, would it be like season 10?
Wow.
Like,
Oh
it's gonna
man,
be crazy.
some of these points you're bringing up are just hitting me in the face. Like, like, okay, so I'm just gonna be real with you. My biggest emotional attachment was to the golden Moogly ever, because like
Yeah.
coming into the app early, like, I didn't have as much liquidity. I stacked Tods and stuff, but like I was always like, man, that thing at the time was 13 grand.
Hmm.
And I bought it when it went to 8. And I'll never forget like the feeling of like having it, because I was like you said earlier, like one of like, only 100 and whatever, 10 or 150 people that owns that. And like, imagine now, like you're, like you said, you're in the metaverse and you come to, the Wet Wizard's house and you have two golden Mooglies, that are in the front of your place. Like, that's pure clout. Like no one else in the metaverse is going to have that. You know what I mean? And so it's
Yeah.
like that we might see things that we never thought were going to really take off, like start to take off, just because of that scarcity component, like you said, because we can't really see scarcity right now. We see
Mm-hmm.
popularity, but like when we're in the metaverse and we're walking around, like you might see partner statue a lot, even though they're amazing, but just because there's 4,333. But how often are you going to see, something that has 250 editions or less? So that's a wicked point you bring up.
100%, man. Yeah. And like right now, scarcity doesn't matter. Everybody's hyped on popularity and everything like that, which I totally get. And, as of right now, the market has shown that is the smart way to look at it.
Yeah.
But thinking that scarcity is not going to matter, I think is totally like misguided, because none of us know what's going to happen with
Yeah.
the future of this technology. Like this technology is truly limitless.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're just trying to gather like what we think is going to happen. But yeah, like if you can, like a Donnie, for example, if you can use these NFTs as avatars, which I think will definitely be going to. I know they've mentioned Ready Player One is really what they're shooting for. And I have talked to one of the members of the team that kind of gave an insight that they're still possibly like, that's still kind of their goal.
Wow.
If you see a Donnie running around or something like that, like that's going to be rare. You're gonna be like, oh shit, like, you never see that.
Never.
So it's going to be very rare, and it's a statement thing. Same with all these other scarce ones. Like I mentioned, the Jermaine Rogers rabbit.
Yeah.
Like there's only 840 of those, and they look cool.
Right.
Like those pieces are going to, that's going to bring value to those pieces, and it's going to bring desirability to rent those pieces because you're going to be unique. Like my thought is, and it's kind of crazy to say this, but like I think for sure this is where it's going. I think the VeVe Verse and Metaverse is going to be social media 2.0, and the type of NFTs that you have interacting in the VeVe Verse, they're basically going to be like social status symbols,
Mm-hmm.
And like people are mentioning like, oh well, people are just going to buy a bunch of the like new cheap NFTs and run around the VeVe Verse like that. And I'm like, yeah, some probably will, but imagine if you're like a professional and you go and hang out with the VeVe with your coworkers or your peers, your friends. You're not going to want to run around with a lame NFT. It's almost going to be in my eyes like having the bad shoe, like the crappy shoes in school when you're like a kid.
Yeah.
People are going to be like, it kind of represents you in a way. And it's kind of lame. It's kind of bad to say this, but I truly believe this is where it's going to go. So those people that don't have like really cool season one NFTs or just really cool NFTs, they're going to rent the NFT so they can run around as that for the day.
Right.
And, go have fun with their friends. I truly believe it's social media 2.0. Like you're going to log into the VeVe Verse, you're going to see, oh, Chad, NFT Pirates, Sean sent me messages or whatever, like, hey, come meet us at the VeVe Verse land or the Disneyland. Like, okay, cool. And you go there and like, everybody's going to have different unique NFTs and stuff. And, they're going to be social status symbols, I believe. I believe that's where the world is going to go eventually.
Bro, okay, so you and I are on the same wavelength here. I'm loving this conversation. So okay, so I saw this Twitter post today, and it was basically somebody indirectly making fun of VeVe, and it got like thousands of likes. Like I think it almost had 1,000 retweets. And basically it was like a bunch of Spider-Mans on a plane, and he was making fun of them, being like, oh look, we're all Spider-Man, right? But like I started laughing too, because like, well, hey bud, like it's not as if every Bugatti Veyron is like unique other than the colors. You know what I'm trying to say? Like they mass produce that shit, even at that level, which is like in our world the pinnacle of, let's say automobiles, right? McLaren, all those different things, like Ferrari F430, like they're all, mass produced, but they're still so rare in the context of the world. And so when you see a Ferrari, you're like, holy shit, it's a Ferrari. And like, just like what you said in this metaverse thing, if we are walking around with like avatars, nobody's going to give a shit about your Ferrari now, because they're going to be wanting to go into the metaverse to see what's going on in there. And then this is going to be, like you said, a new way to have social status. And so I think you're totally right. Like if you're walking around in your secret rare Spider-Man skin, or even your Thor secret rare. Like that's, you know, there's fewer of those, and it's going to be, people are going to want it. They're going to turn and look.
Yeah.
So you're hitting it on the nail on the head. And I think it just comes back to my earlier thing, was just like, can they get there? You know, like it, is there gonna, like, or like you said, like, you know, Meta's investing whatever it is, like billions and billions of dollars, have 10,000 people working on this a day, as VeVe's got, like, you know, don't get me wrong, a great team, but like, holy shit, like, you know, then maybe like we need a whole friggin' workshop of fucking software engineers to get this really, you know, on pace with these guys. I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm actually really glad you brought that up,
Yeah.
because it's something that I've kind of been looking into a bit more and really kind of researching. And so VeVe has mentioned that there's a third party company that's producing the VeVe Verse. And there's an article, actually the Gale did a video on this about a
Sick.
year ago. It's a sick video. He did a really great job. But there was an article that VeVe wrote about 3 years ago where they mentioned a gaming company that they're working with, and it's a Big Red Button Entertainment.
Wow.
And the founders, they've worked on, like, I think they worked on Crash Bandicoot, like Uncharted, God of War. They're all different like games. It's a legit entertainment company. They've made multiple games. And I believe this is the company that's behind the VeVe Verse. You know, this is just me own connecting dots.
Yeah.
And they have a legit software that they created. It's called Tapestry. And basically it's kind of like Pokemon Go, but to another level. And, you know, Alfred Kahn mentioned about Niantic and things like that. I believe they've worked with Niantic as well. So it's like, you know, I believe that there is a huge gaming company that is working on the VeVe Verse, and I think they've been doing it for like 3 years. So like none of us really know where their development is, because they've kept it so tightly sealed. But who knows? Like, they said that the first iteration of the VeVe Verse would come out this year, and they said it pretty early in the year. So I would imagine they have been putting a lot of work into it, and they're still holding to it that it's going to come out this year. So, you know, who really knows? Like, when they drop that, it could like literally blow us all back. You know, I don't
Yeah.
want to set expectations high or anything like that, but it is a possibility.
Yeah.
It could also be super lame and just like the original Comic-Con one of last year when it was canceled, and it was like that little robot guy that had all these glitches and everything. But
Yeah.
I think VeVe, like they said, they under promise and over deliver. I think they're gonna do the same with the VeVe Verse. You know, like Reese mentioned in his tweet, like, you know, we're at the cutting edge, and some of this technology is barely even exists, and, you know, we're at the forefront. I believe that to be true.
Yeah.
So, you know, they might come out pretty sick with the VeVe Verse. You know, none of us know. We're just getting
Man.
caught in the day-to-day emotions. But really, when we zoom out, like, there's a lot of big things that could be coming, you know?
Wow. Man, that's such a cool point, because I remember Reese back in the day said something similar to me, like, yeah, we've got a ton of people in the background, you know, developing a bunch of things, and like a lot of stuff, like you said, is still, you know, under the wraps. But if that's the case, and this thing does work out to be one of the best metaverses, and we have all this IP, like how fucking lucky were we to be one of the first 10,000 people to like identify this tiny little project before, you know, any real IP came, and just so happen to be like riding this crazy wave all the way to the finish line. I mean, it's just like, it's unfathomable to me sometimes. Like, I have to like look back and pinch myself and be like, all right, like, it's, you know, you found this somehow by watching, you know, I forget who, Everything Currency was the guy that showed me on YouTube. He's talking about like Omi as like an altcoin that was going to go to the moon. And I was like, all right, that sounds like fun. And then I actually looked into what it was, and I was like, oh, this
Yeah.
sounds amazing. So
Shout out to that guy, man. Yeah, that's
yeah.
freaking awesome. As a
Yeah.
quick aside, too, I just want to give a shout out to my buddy Sanji, who actually put us together on Twitter, because I would have
Sick.
never reached out, and he's the one that kind of connected us. So just shout out to him, man.
Yeah.
But
Thanks,
yeah,
man.
man, who truly knows where VeVe's going to go. I think they're truly positioned to be the guys. And there are some faults, you know. I'm now kind of having conversations with Wales. It's a progression, because I was like so into VeVe NFTs. But now I'm kind of understanding the outside NFT world as well. And, you know, there are downsides to VeVe being a walled off garden. But in my eyes, the things on OpenSea and things like that, like, I already think they're just aside. Like they're not going to be the ones
Yeah.
for a lot of reasons. One, the big ones, accessibility is huge, but also like the security.
Yeah.
I mean, like you got to be on point right now. If you have like collectibles on OpenSea or your MetaMask or anything like that, you literally have to be on point to safeguard your NFTs, because these hackers and these like scammers, they're getting so technologically advanced and so creative with their scams. The average person, like, they're not going to want to deal with that. You don't, because you literally have to stay up on it, like, oh, what are they doing now, what do I avoid now? Like, it's exhausting to be that on point, you know, especially being 24/7. Whereas VeVe, you can relax. You know you're with the biggest brands. You know that you're safe for the most part, because VeVe kind of oversees it in a way. And I think that is totally catered towards the masses, because the masses aren't going to want to throw big money into something where they're going to always have to be on guard to protect their investment. Like,
Right.
it's nobody's going to want to do that. I know I don't.
Bro. Yeah, you're right, man. Like even like, you know, thinking about all the people I got into crypto and they're calling me be like, dude, what the fuck is the slipping tolerance and like how much should I put? And I'm like, you know, like you don't just know these things. These are things like trial and error and like, you know, you
Yeah.
said a long time doing it. And so you're right, man. And that's what VeVe has. It has that accessibility. So I think, you know, I think that the biggest deterrent right now is just like people can't see what we're seeing. Like I feel like they think I feel like a lot of people see it as like a toy store. Like when I talk to
Yeah.
people on the outside, and the other thing too is like, you know, you said something that was interesting, like how we see the day to day on you know on Twitter, and we're like keeping up with Reese and all these guys, but like the majority of people on VeVe probably don't even use Twitter. Like probably just
Yeah.
collecting to collect, and like, oh cool, Buzz Lightyear's dropping. You know what I mean? Like they might even know about like bots as an example, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like that's the masses that we need. It's like these people that are just in there to be like, oh, I want to be part of the metaverse. I want to walk around. I want to do these things. Not, oh, let me join this AMA. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And I think a big part of that, and that's why I'm kind of glad that they're not mass marketing right now,
Yeah.
because basically, like, the common population, the general population, as of right now, like, they have a lot shorter of attention spans. And all of us that are like kind of diehard VeVe, we got into it, and you know, a lot of us saw some big profits. You know, we see the vision and everything like that, but we had the profits and everything, so we see the potential. Whereas a new person to come in, like, okay, maybe there'll be a little bit of profits or something like that, but they have nothing else to do, you know, unless they get really captivated by that, which some will, a lot probably won't. There's nothing else for them to do. So that's why I think for the VeVe Magic interview that David, you mentioned, he's like, yeah, we're really focusing on bringing value and fun to these NFTs, because that's what I truly believe you're going to need to have in order to capture a new person downloading the app and retain them. They're going to have fun with the app, you know, and they just don't have it right now. So I'm glad they're not mass marketing, because, you know, there's as the general person, there's not a lot to keep them there, you know, unless they fully get into it. But not everybody's like that, you know.
Right, man. And so, like you said, the people that believe now are gonna get the glory later on, you know. And I don't know if you've been noticing either, but like even like I started thinking about like, you know, Darth Vader and Boba Fett, and I'm like, okay, there was the ultra rare common, and I'm like, like, you know, 3 collectibles in a set. Like I always wonder, well, maybe there's gonna be a 4th secret rare dropped randomly, you know, like that just like starts, you
Mm-hmm.
know, when they do that snapshot, and like all of a sudden, you know, maybe there's only 3,000 secret rare Darth Vaders and 2,200 Boba Fett secret rares, and all of a sudden now you have that other layer of utility. And it's, you know, and even that other thing that dropped recently, the I think Ryan from the drop made a club around it. I think it was like one of the, I forget, it was just like a dinosaur or something like that. He
Mm-hmm.
called it Club 424. I think that's what it was. It was like the Raptors.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, like just like little things like that, like you just made an extra K. Like those people that got it were making like $1,000 gems, which is now like, you know, you can take out to your MTL. So, you know, we're already seeing it there. We're seeing tidbits. And I do think, like you said earlier, man, like in the future, like you could just like owning like a bunch of different properties, you'll just be able to own all these different assets, different properties in the metaverse, and just be able to manage your things all day. Like, oh, let me set up another smart contract that does 6-hour increments for my MC1 comic. Like, like
Yeah.
that's the future. Like, I really think that. So
Yeah.
it's just hard, right? It's hard because, so like maybe I want to dive back into 2018, 2019, because this is when you got into crypto hard, right? And a lot of people
Mhm.
didn't see the vision. Like people were escaping, crypto's nothing, it's gone. Like, so what was your like mentality? And I guess like what did you see that others didn't back then? And why did you go like full ham?
So yeah, my introduction to crypto was pretty kind of interesting in a way. Because I did see Bitcoin, like I was aware of Bitcoin before it was anything like really crazy. Like I want to say like $300 maybe, or so around there, maybe lower. And I was just like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, I wish them the best of luck, because at the beginning, Bitcoin, like the purists, like it was against the Fed, against the Federal Reserve,
Hmm.
something against the traditional money system, and it was internet money. At least that was the beginning, like of my understanding. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I wish them the best of luck. That's
Right.
dope that they're doing that. And then I saw it, really move up, and I was like, oh shit, okay, that's interesting. And I clocked it. And there was another time where I was I used to live by like a university in San Diego, and it was big party time in my life. And I had a friend there that, like, kind of after the party, we were just chilling, drinking, and whatever. And he was like, we talked for like 2-3 hours, and he was telling me about Ethereum, and he was like going all in depth. Like he was really on it. Like he knew like a lot about it, and he was telling me about Ethereum. And at that time, Ethereum was $10. And I was like, man, dude, like I'm sold. Like I would 100% buy some, but like I barely have any money to buy a burrito right now. That's where I was at that point in time. And then that's the 2017, 2018, I saw Ethereum like shoot up, and I was like, man, like there's something here, like for sure. And a lot of people just kind of jumped out of the space and just like, oh, this is trash, whatever. It was a fad, it was a bubble. But I still always thought about it because I saw what happened with those two projects. And then fortunately, like I mentioned, I was involved in mortgage. So I went to Michigan for like a mortgage like conference. And I was next to some guy that was like really spot on. Like you
Wow.
could kind of tell when there's somebody that's like an ace, like really wise, really smart. And this guy was just on the ball. And I was sitting next to him. I remember I asked him, I don't know, something compelled me to ask him. I was like, hey man, are you involved with crypto or like crypto at all? And he's like, oh yeah, man. And he kind of went into it, and he's like, at that time it was VeChain. He's like, yeah, man, I've done like 4,000 hours of research, and like I'm going in on VeChain. Like I bought into it like really big. I was like, wow, man, that's sick. And I put it in my mind. And then he's like, yeah. I was like, are you like kind of like really into it? He's like, yeah, man, I liquidated my 401k to do it. And I was like, damn, like that. And this guy was a really smart guy. So from that moment on, I was like, all right, because I saw what happened with Bitcoin, I saw what happened with Ethereum. I was like, I'm not going to miss the boat. Like I'm gonna grind as hard as I can, put as much money as I can into it. And that was kind of the journey of me getting into crypto.
Wow.
So I was fortunate, you never know what you're gonna run into, but it was a fortunate event.
Wow. It's amazing how like, you could always thank like good people in your life, hey, to like get you into it like that. Like it's just wild to
Yeah.
me, right? Yeah. Interesting. And so I guess like that's kind of the same sentiments that we're kind of echoing here is like, we know that metaverses are the future. I mean, like, the
Mhm.
writing's on the wall. Facebook changed their name to Meta. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, for sure,
Like it's
man.
right there, guys. Like, you know
Doesn't
what I
get
mean?
any
So it's like,
clearer.
yeah. So even if you don't believe in VeVe, if you're investing in some kind of metaverse related thing, and we believe we're going to be working in the metaverse, that we're going to be avatars, that we're going to be using augmented reality a lot. You even see Apple now come out with their glasses that they're showcasing. In the future we won't even have phones, we'll be using the glass. It's just like all of
Mhm.
this stuff is kind of coming into, and we can already see the future, right? It's like, okay, the glasses, then you see Neuralink in the future, and then all of a sudden you're connected with technology. So I mean, I guess it's really kind of an enlightening story, because as much as there's a lot of negativity right now, I do think that there's a big comeback. And I think, like you said, if the metaverse is in place, MCP, OUP, OMI to NFT, and all these things come to fruition, like it's going to be a big future.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big year for VeVe just in general, you know, because
Yeah.
MCP, OUP, and then VeVe Verse, you know, if they truly do all of, I think at least MCP and OUP will for sure get launched this year. And if they do launch the first stage of VeVe Verse this year, like that is massive, like that's
Yeah.
huge. And like I think at that point, I think there will be very comfortable to mass market. You know, there's still the localization, there's still the sports fix to come, anime, like all of these things could literally bring such a huge fan bases to VeVe. Like we're just going to be sitting in prime location. Like anybody that's invested in it now, like I think flashing forward, we're going to be very happy that we did. You know, there's
Right.
little ups and down bumps within a market. There always is. Any market, any stock, basically, any crypto. And like we're just at one of those moments. Like VeChain, like for example, for my case, like I was buying VeChain like heavy as much as I could, and it was so stagnant and it was just so low. People are telling me you're crazy. Like, you know, sometimes those thoughts will even creep into my mind. Like, am I doing the right thing? But I just stay convicted because I already did all the research as well. And I was like, you know, sure enough, what happened? It popped. It had those moments where, you know, it popped off. And like
Yeah.
right now, I don't think VeVe wants to pop off like that because again, they don't have any fun value to offer to people other than the AR pictures and, you know, trading and selling. Like,
Mm-hmm,
but a
mm-hmm.
common person, that's not going to really like get them all excited. You know, they got to have some value and fun entertainment to keep
Right.
people on the app, you know, and also reward systems to be like, you know, because a lot of the games right now on apps, phone games,
Yeah.
they'll give you rewards if you log in for a day. You know, you log in 2 days in a
That's
row, you
right.
get another reward. And that's all engaging things. Like VeVe doesn't have that like level of engagement for new users yet.
Yeah.
And I think MCP will bring that. And then, you know, definitely VeVe Verse and such like that. So I'm me personally, I'm glad they're not mass marketing right now.
Yeah.
I want them to do it once they're ready, which potentially could be at the end of this year.
Wow. Man, yeah, I mean, again, great points. And like, if I think about it too, like, imagine, you know, you sign in 6 days in a row and you're kind of pondering with the idea, and all of a sudden you get 30 gems. Okay, go buy your first collectible or show up at the first drop. And, you know, that's one piece
Yeah,
of engagement. And then it just keeps, you know, elevating from there. So there's so many more things that could be added that will really kind of change the scope of what's happening right now. You're right.
100%, man. Yeah. And, you know, also within the collectibles themselves, like, you know, everybody's kind of wondering about utility and things like that.
Yeah.
And if they're going to come or what shape. And like, again, just like the interoperability where I believe companies are going to be clamoring to have it, I think the same thing is gonna show for utility. Like I think these companies like are going to be very incentivized and very desired to put utility to their NFTs
Mm-hmm.
because it's just going to bring more business to them as a company. I see it in the way of like Vegas, like because people are saying like, oh well, why would Disney give us free things? Why would
Yeah.
they lose money? And it's like, well, they're not losing money. Like, does Vegas lose money when they give you a free hotel room?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Here, here.
there's a reason
Yeah,
they do it.
exactly.
No, you know,
Yeah.
because you go, you pay for the parking, you go and you buy the restaurants or you gamble and things like that. You know, that's just a little write off. Like, yeah, hell yeah, we'll give you a free hotel. Come on over. Yeah, I think it's going to be the same thing with Disney and all these other companies because it's just going to create engagement. Like
Mm.
for their parks, for their merchandise, and for things like that. Like, let's say, just an easy example, let's say they give a month of Disney Plus to like their new Disney drops or whatever like that. 1 month, like, they're not going to care. But they know a lot of people that sign up for something, and if they actually like the product, they'll probably keep it for even longer. You know, that's why a lot of companies give like a money back guarantee, 30-day money back guarantee or
Right.
whatever, because they just want you to have it and they know generally a lot of people, once they have it, if they generally like it, cool, or they're not going to go through the process of sending it back. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then now you're a customer, you know, like 100% they do things like that. Like they do it all the time, like free promotions. sign up, you get a free month, free 3 months. Why wouldn't they bring it to NFTs, which, just, I think 100% that's coming also.
Wow. Wow, man. And so I guess, you know what? I'm just going to say it. I know you're a big whale on all the Telegram groups. And you're involved in a few chats and things like that. Is there anything that you can kind of share with the users that's kind of going on in some of these whales minds or some of the bigger collectors that, is there frustration? Is there hesitancy? Is there excitement? Is there, longevity? Like what is the general sentiments that you're kind of picking up on? If you don't mind sharing. If not, we can just,
Yeah.
we'll cut this out.
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, I mean, as of right now, I think the sentiment is pretty positive. Like, prior there was some frustration, but
Yeah.
it was more so like around the time of KYC cash out and like the banned accounts. But now I think it's, people are more chill. A lot of people are seeing this as an opportunity, buying more collectibles and such like that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's generally positive, and people are just waiting for the new AF-15 potentially, which is kind of annoying that they did that and the way that they did it, because the market's so stagnant now and nobody wants to buy anything. So hopefully they learn from that.
That's true.
Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think everybody knows that, there's no way they'd be flashing those comics around like like if it wasn't
Yeah.
like something was on the horizon, So you're right. If they did it maybe within a 3-day timeline, then
Yeah.
sure, right? People get, but like you said, for like a good month, like we've got Lightyear and Boba Fett that's just dropped, and they're going for like 2x for the ultra rare, So not even. So yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. Secondary market sales, nobody's buying anything. Like it
Yeah, yeah.
really kind of slow things down. So hopefully they learn from that. But yeah, generally people are like just really kind of waiting for the developments to come. Like people are still optimistic and positive about the app for sure. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd say it's generally people are positive and seeing this as an opportunity for the
Sweet.
most part. Yeah.
Man, that's awesome, dude. Listen, I would love to get you on again, man. Like I think I told you earlier, like I always like do these weekly chats to try to get Danny, Sean. I've got a few people that I'm pretty close with. So if you're ever down, just to come on and shoot the shit with us, if you ever got some free time, like, I just feel like you're just a wealth of knowledge, and I think it'd just be cool if you can share more light with the community. And I just feel like you just got so much else to say, and I'm sorry that I had to cut you within an hour, but I want to have you back. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, man, I'm definitely down, bro. I had a good time so far, and yeah, I'd love to connect with you guys. I've listened to them too, and I just love what you guys talk about. It's good conversation. Yeah, I'd love to be a part of it.
Sweet, man. I appreciate that. And I think that's the thing. We just always try to like hear everybody's perspective, because the more perspectives we have, then we can kind of see, the end route of each one.
Yeah.
And like I'm always learning. Like the crazy thing is like I talk to so many people, but like even in this conversation I learned so much. Just like even what you're talking about, like the metaverse implications, like I'm like, yeah, like what about these avatars, or how will Dragon Girl stand up in the metaverse? Because maybe she's not going to be cool as an avatar, maybe she'd be cool in somebody's house, but then it's like, do people even want to go in my house? Like there's all these things
Yeah.
that we don't even know, because we haven't seen like what human sociology is with inside a computer game, really, so it's
Great way
crazy.
to put it. Great
Yeah,
way to put it. Yeah, 100%.
yeah, yeah.
And I have that same thought too. Like that's kind of where I analyze my investment strategy is kind of unique in ways. And that's kind of why I analyze pieces like posters versus comics versus collectibles versus statues and things like that. And I kind of put all that into consideration. And, really the things that I'm investing in and stacking are things that I believe will be very rentable in the future. So that's why I stacked those beta ray bills, because I do believe that those will be gamified. Again, this is my speculation. I believe he's going to enter the MCU, but I also believe that they're going to be gamified. So I wanted to stack a Marvel Mighty, and I was going to do Spider-Man, but it's just pretty expensive to stack those. And then Beta Ray Bill comes along, a lot lower mints, really cool character, strong character, hasn't entered the MCU yet. And I'm like, boom, price point was very solid. And I'm like, all right, these are the ones. So
Wow.
now if they make a Marvel Mighty games, you know, I'm going to be probably sitting pretty good with renting those out, you know, and then the
Wow.
other Mighties as well. So I have some pretty unique stacks that we didn't talk about.
Hit me,
Um,
baby. Let's go. Let's hear it.
so the other one that I have is the other ones that I really went big on, and this is a huge risk. So zero
Okay.
financial advice is a
Zero
huge risk
financial advice,
on it.
folks.
Yeah, I stacked the 007 gliders and the
Sick.
Star Trek ultra rare
Yeah.
enterprises because I foresee, like they already mentioned, that the cars are going to be drivable, you know, in the metaverse. So okay, my idea is okay. Well, are the automobiles going to be flyable in the metaverse? Like it's just a
Yeah.
common, like, you know, the next stage of it. Because why are they going to have these aircrafts that are just going to be sitting on the ground, you know, when the cars are driving around? I'd
Right.
imagine I'm foreseeing the aircrafts are going to be flyable, and that's going to be something that's unique. That's going to be something that people are going to want. Like, oh yeah, let me fly around the metaverse for the day or whatever, or let me rent out the glider so I can go to this, so I can go to NFT Pirate's party that he's having at his, you know, digital house. Let me show up in the glider. So I did stack those. I have a pretty good stack of those, and I really just aim to. I'm trying to forecast what I believe will be rentable in the
Right.
metaverse. But
Wow.
that's very risky, and it's very kind of like long out. It's kind
Yeah.
of more of a long-term thing. But yeah, that's kind of where I've stacked some good portion too.
I love that though, because like you said, like as the technology gets more advanced, like if you're already thinking like long term and outside the box like that, like that's where the real money can be made, right? And
Hmm.
what, and I guess on that same note, like what's your take on the hoverboards? Because I always just imagine like what a a easier, quicker way to get around that I could still see being implemented like quite early because it shouldn't involve too much things other than just like moving faster.
Yeah.
But did you think about those as a potential stock, or did you kind of leave those?
Yeah, so definitely I was thinking about the Marty one. I actually wanted to go after the number 41 of
Oh,
like a while
sick.
back. I
Bro,
was
my
like kind
brother
of thinking,
has that one. He had it.
did
He
he?
had, yeah, he had I forget what it was. He had 41, 42, 43, or something like that.
Of Marty?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it was one of them. It could have been Marty. He
Oh,
was,
okay.
he was
Okay,
like
yeah.
literally traded his whole collection at the time. And then, he's just always flipping, but he went
Yeah,
out of
yeah.
them within a week, but he had him at one point.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I was thinking about going for that one just because, like, yeah, hoverboards could definitely be that next level. I feel like it's that would be the third stage of like
Yeah.
possibility, but I could for sure see it. Like, I feel like cars are already they already told us cars are going to be drivable.
Right.
My next thing is okay, probably the airplanes, most likely, and then the hoverboards, most likely. You know,
Right. Right.
so I was thinking of potentially stacking some of those, but that's actually where I got the idea because somebody stacked the Martys to have like a hoverboard rental company.
Sick. Now you have
So
a
like,
glider rental company. What's cooler, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
aircraft rental company, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of what I went for. But again, it's a huge gamble. But that's why they say that, you know, I could either hit a home run for it or I could completely tank on it. So it's a
Yeah.
huge risk, but you know, it's kind of calculated. You know, you gotta sometimes look where other people aren't looking, and I felt
Right.
like that was kind of the route
Wow.
of some of my stacks. You know.
So sick, man. Yeah, and I feel like there's still like some crazy opportunities. I mean, there's a ton of crazy opportunities in the market, but I really think that like
Uh,
if you hit it right, like I think like especially the better rate bill one that you told me about, like that one feels like at least from if I'm like thinking about it, like it feels like a home run that should be there within the not so distant future. Because like you said, he's not integrated into the MCU. There's a lot of talk and teasing about the Marvel Mighties being gamified. They're super
mm,
simplistic, so if they had to make them interoperable or like do things with them from a gamification standpoint, it'd be less work. Like I get
yeah.
you. I hear where you're going. So that's freaking cool, man. I feel like you got some good stacks there for sure.
Hopefully, man. Yeah, you know, that's kind of I put my money where my mouth is on that one, and
Yeah.
on all of those. And you know, I hope, but you know, it's a gamble. Like,
Yeah.
but there's tons of opportunity on this app. Like one of the recent things that I saw that I was like, and it doesn't matter where you are, like how much liquidity you have. Like, there's tons of opportunity. And like Sleep in Comics, for example, he really stacked the Miss Marvel Secret Rare comic. I want to say it was,
Mm,
and like he stacked it like hard, like a lot. and she had a show that came out, and like nobody really was like whatever about it. I haven't watched it yet, but I guess the ending was like super epic. And once that aired, like the season finale, like it was like super epic. I still haven't seen it, but I heard it was really epic. Like that comic book pumped crazy.
Wow.
And it's like, you know, that was an opportunity where he believed in it. He took a calculated risk. And as the cards fell, like it ended up becoming like a really big comic, you know, it really pumped up pretty good.
Wow.
And there's tons of opportunities like that throughout, you know, like
Yeah.
throughout the app. And you don't even have to have much money to just find the right ones. Like the people that stacked those commons, they were probably like $4, $3. I
Wow.
don't know what they are now, but you know, like
Yeah.
there's just so much opportunity that's there. And you know, you just have to be kind of smart about it and really be willing to take a risk, because there's no risk, there's no reward without risk.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
if you really want to make some big plays, you know, that's kind of where you have to go, but
Wow,
you
man.
could also lose.
Yeah. And it's just crazy because I'm just thinking like my biggest play was just Todd because of like obviously it was $80 and it went to 14 grand. And it's just like, you know,
Huge.
just like thinking about like, wow, like what an ROI on that. But I mean, you're
Mhm.
right. Like there's all those things currently in the market now. You know,
Yeah.
Marvel One Common was what for $2 to $3 at the time, went to 700-800 at its hype. So it's like, yeah, like the only issue that I have is the sustainability thing. I think a lot of people get worried because some people bought in at the top and now are like, you know, freaking out like, oh my god, my stuff is worth 10% of what it was worth, you know, 4 or 5 months ago. But I
Yeah.
think, you know, and I guess, okay, I know I gotta let you go, but I guess my last question to you would be, you know, I always talk about this, but we have more and more saturation, more and more collectibles, not enough volume necessarily like keeping up with these prices. When things started off, we were kind of like in a small container, you know, not many things to go around, a lot of people in it. And now we're kind of like in a huge room, so to
Hmm.
speak. And there's like, you know, not enough people to kind of hold everything up. And I'm like thinking long term, you know, are we going to get back to some of these prices that we saw, or are we going to continue to kind of see things kind of, I guess, get more spread out?
Yeah, man. I think there's going to be some pieces that have already seen their all-time high in the past. You know, they may not get back to that.
Yeah.
Like I one off the top of my head that I can think of is like the first season one of the Pride. Like
Right.
not so much the Pride itself, but the other ones, the Amelia Earhart and the Cleopatra.
Right.
Like those got pretty high. It's because they were a lot smaller mint run, but now there's a little bit of dilution that's come in with those. I don't think we're going to see those in the multiple thousands again.
Mm.
But you know, like there are other pieces as well, but there's could still be value in regards to that, whether it's going to be in master collector points or also with rentability. You know, that could be though that could be a piece that people want to rent and things like that. They could bring utility to those pieces, like that artist he signed with VeVe. So that's the one thing that I see. Like there's artists that are like, and this goes with the corporations, why I'm saying they're going to be clamoring to get utility, or they should, because there's such a loyal fan base here in VeVe. And if you engage with that fan base, you give them value, you're gonna get it back. You're gonna get loyal clients like Matt Gondek, for example. You know,
Mm.
he did some airdrops. He's active on Twitter. He's engaging with the community. Like people now are very familiar with Matt Gondek, and he's got a lot of new fans. Whereas there's other artists that just dropped an NFT and they just like, oh, let's forget about it. They're really just losing out on an opportunity there. And you know, it's really not smart, savvy business. And I feel that same way with the companies, just to a bigger level, like Disney and things like that. Like if they can engage with the community and give different like perks and stuff, like let's say the small NFTs that are like, you know, later on the Disney villains, you get a month free of Disney Plus. Okay, that's cool. A lot of people will sign up for that. Let's say the Walt, though, like the Walt is a higher priced item, so you know you're dealing with people that potentially have a bit more capital. You can offer them your like really high end packages. Like, okay, if you have a Walt, we'll give you like 25% off to our 3 day resort, Disney resort thing, type of that. Because you have to
Right.
cater, you know, really big companies, they cater to the client of what they're trying to bring to their products.
Right.
Like You know, again, Vegas, for example, like they're going to give the high end, you know, diamond members their top exclusive packages and everything like that, because they'll be able, that's who they're going to cater to, you know. And
Yeah.
then the people that are like the bronze leveled or whatever, they'll give them percentages off to hotel stays. So they really cater it and make it very strategic. And companies that don't do that, they're just going to be they're just going to be losing out on it, you know, just like the artists are right now, where we can clearly see it. Like I almost bought a Matt Gondek piece. I may actually, there's two that I actually want that I may get at some point, you know.
Crazy.
And there are people that bought like his little, he released a little like stuffed animal type of thing, the ones that are on the app, like the ducks with the bats. Then he's releasing the like customized baseball bats, and there's tons of people in the VeVe community that are interested in wanting to buy it. And that's only there because he engaged with the community. So these artists that are not engaging with the community, these brands that are not engaging with the community, they're really just shooting themselves in the foot, in my opinion. So that's why I think utility will come as well.
Damn,
Sorry,
dude.
I'm going on a soapbox. My bad,
No,
dude.
man. Hey, this is what I'm good at, is like letting the smart people speak, man. So this is yeah, this is exciting
Appreciate it.
shit. Yeah, like I think, you know, for me, the thing that I'm like a little bit like nervous about now is just, I guess like I see these Bored Apes take off. I see all these like other ones take off, and I'm like hoping that we get some of these celebrities and shit into VeVe, you know? Like I
Mm-hmm.
see them all like everywhere else but here, and I'm like, man, what is holding these guys back? Like, you know, like Neymar, like I remember Danny one time brought up on our conversation, has like a Batman and Spider-Man tattoo on his back. And I'm like, dude, like, how do you
Oh,
not
no
want
shit.
the first ever NFTs? Like, what's holding you up, you know? And I think like
Yeah.
maybe it's just, you know, a matter of time. But do you have any idea on that?
I think VeVe is just being very very relaxed in their marketing approach right now.
Yeah.
You know, like they could easily engage with all these celebrities and things like that. Like we already know Logan Paul is part of the ecosystem, but he hasn't really said anything about it. You know, why is that? And it's more than likely because they're probably just telling him like, hey, hold on, let's you know, let's chill it out a little bit.
Mhm.
And there will be a time for that. And because imagine if a bunch of people came into VeVe right now, what are they just going to do? Buy a bunch of NFTs and take pictures with AR? Like, yeah, some people will be really about it and they'll have fun with it, but a lot
I
of people
see.
will kind of get tired of it and be like, oh, well, there's nothing else to do. And once the general people like touch something once, you only get one opportunity. You know,
Right.
if you're lucky, you get two, but generally you only have one opportunity. You only have one first impression. And if right now they were to bring a bunch of people, like I feel like they wouldn't have a very as amazing of a first impression as they could, as if they
Yeah.
were to wait 4 to 5 months, 6 months, you know? So
Dude,
I think they're really just chilling on their marketing. And then once everything's in place, that's where they're going to turn it on, you know, and then be like, okay, boom. Like, cause VeVe could blow up any moment if they really wanted to.
yeah.
They could pay some of these big time, like Charlie D'Amelio or whatever, I don't know, some of these big time TikTokers, Logan Paul, they could just spread out $1 million throughout these guys and just be like, okay, here, advertise it, take videos with these NFTs, you know, things like that. And overnight VeVe can blow up if they
Wow.
truly wanted to, you know, but they're not doing it right now. And I think it's because they just don't have a complete product right now.
Wow.
And yeah,
Like, I mean, that makes perfect sense. Like, if you were to employ you and I as head of marketing, we put our two heads together, I'd be like, all right, like you said, let's get MCP, OUP, Omni to NFT, all these things laid out first, get the whole system working well, Metaverse in place, digital land in place. And then to launch it, we fucking drop Pokemon NFTs and then we launch it all simultaneously with
bro,
a working Metaverse. And then, like you said, at that point, you come in, you touch it, you're in forever, right? So
they're hooked.
you're
Yeah.
right, bro. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, they're hooked. You know, they're going to be like, wow, this is freaking amazing.
Yeah.
And it's like they're going to be a client for, they're going to be a member for life, you know, part of the VFam for life.
Wow.
Whereas right now, there's just not as much to do on the app, you know. And again, I think we're so invested in it as well because we've seen the profits, like the huge profits from it.
Yeah, true.
And you know, that's why we're more invested because we've all made money for the most part. So we have that little bit more of a desire. Also, as early on, but a newcomer, they're going to you know, they're probably not going to see those profits right away like we saw. So they're not going to have that hook that we had.
True. So it's like you said, the utility, the gamification, the metaverse, that's going to keep them there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, the Wet Wizard, thank you so much for coming on, bro. That was
Yeah, man.
I feel like I could talk to you, like we could just keep going, but you know, like I said, man, I'm gonna have you back on another episode because I feel like you've got just so much to say, and obviously you got the collection to back it up. So you know, you're no what do they call it? What do they say? I forget the word here. Poser. You're no poser, because I met a lot of posers.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Definitely not.
I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Hopefully, you know, this could have brought some people some value in some sort of way. You know, that's why I definitely want to do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, hopefully maybe one of these days at a decon event or something, we'll be able to have a beer and kick it and chill, man.
100%.
I definitely am excited to come back and talk with you again for sure.
Yeah, 1000%. I need you back, bro. I feel like this conversation was really good. And so I'm going to be DMing you now and be like, hey, man, I got a question. So, yeah, thanks, boss. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, man, absolutely, brother. I hope you have a great night and, you know, excited to connect with you all again. Again, people, whoever's watching, thanks for listening. If you ever want to connect with me, 100%, I'm on Twitter, same name, Wet Wizard or whatever the case. Yeah, I'm more than open to connect with people. Sure.
Yeah, I forgot to say that. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, if you haven't followed Wet Wizard yet, make sure to get on Twitter and do so now. All you got to do is go through a few of his tweets and see his crazy collection. Like I said earlier, like I think one tweet that really hit me, I saw 50 secret rare Thors and 200 ultra rares, and I was like, all right, this I need to talk more to this guy. So yeah, definitely a true OG and a legend of the game. So yeah, man, thanks again.
Yeah, just really quick, I just want to shout out Huddle Frames for this.
Yeah, that's
because
crazy.
I did get the president's stamp, 1977.
Oh shit.
Or 1776, which is like the birth year of the United States. And so I got a frame with it. So they're super legit. So that's what's in the background. If anybody,
bro, can you bring that up to the camera? I just want people to see that. That's so crazy. I forgot you had 1776. Bro, I should have brought that up right away. That's fucking nuts.
So it also rotate at a certain point as well. And it only displays this. So you can get other displays and stuff, but I only did 1776 because I feel like it's a special piece. So if anybody ever buys this piece off me in the future, you'll also get this as well.
Wow.
What a quick shill.
Yo, that's not, you got to show that. That's for, oh, there it is. It's
it spins around and shit. So, I figured so this was pretty cool. When I got it, I was stoked on it.
Damn, bro. That is so legit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So, I forgot to ask you about that. I forgot that was you with that one. That's insane.
Yeah. So
yeah.
A lot of cool things going on in VeVe. So a lot of positive things. Don't get caught in the negativity. A lot of positive things coming. So I'm just excited that we could all be a part of it, you know?
For sure, bro. Thanks for your enlightenment and for coming on, man. Well, like I said, we'll have you back real soon.
Sounds good, brother. It was good talking with you, my man.
You too, buddy. Take care now.
Take it easy.